Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. And today I want to talk to you a little bit more about this idea of taking back control of your soul. And today I want to link it up with the connection to your spiritual self. I think a lot about what limits, me in my life. But of course, I also think about everybody else. What is it that limits human beings? I'm a student. I watch people. I watch what they say, what they do, and I watch what happens in their lives. And the idea is pretty clear, if, from a psychological point of view, is that our definition of ourselves, the story that we have inherited from outside sources and that we continue to tell ourselves, has a huge impact. And not only does it have a huge impact, it might have a defining impact. It might completely control everything in your life. And so basically you've got people who are like zombies that are walking around fulfilling programs that have been programmed into them. So, the thing is that people aren't wrong in terms of their experience that somebody's doing it to them. Now, in order to make sense, what people are trying to do, what everybody's trying to do is they're trying to help understand what is happening to them. What is going on in their life? Why is their life the way it is? They want to figure it out. And so people look for rational explanations. And those explanations usually tend to be outside of you. So you look outside of you and you say, it's the government. It's, years ago it would have been the immorality. It would have been the devil in terms of, the immorality that was being thrust upon you because of, rock and roll and dungarees or, whatever. And people now, the desperation has gotten to such a level where they look even beyond what is rational. They come up with theories about how there's a cadre of hidden elite super beings that masquerade as humans who have underground bases all over the world, and that children are being brought down and feasted upon. And so anybody who has any power or any success, whether it be a celebrity or a powerful business person or a politician, these are seen as having the power to destroy, to rule, to control you. And the feeling is real that you are being controlled. That is a real feeling. When you don't know who's doing it, you look outside of yourself and you either find something that's out there, or if that doesn't work, you make something up, or you take half-truths and conflate them or compound them or expand them to meet your emotional experience. The idea that a politician has the power to, go underground and steal children and, live off of their blood, and have this rule the way you view everything, make you incapable of trusting any sources of information except those that stimulate your emotional feeling. So it's been going on through history. It was the devil. Started in the Middle Ages. The devil made you do it. And the devil was out to destroy you, and it was this fight between God and the devil. And so politicians, kings, elites would then identify with the church. See, I'm God put me here. God put me here as king of England or whatever it is. And so this is a very human thing. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to resolve within us the overwhelming feeling that something is doing it to us. And so that feeling is real. The majority of what people say, the conclusions they come to, are usually wrong. And this is exploding. I mean, the paranoia nowadays is exploding, as I said, to the point where people can't agree on what external reality is in something, again, as simple as an election. That you can give objective evidence, provable, verifiable evidence to people of what the result of that election was, and half of the population will refuse it and then say, I don't know what to believe. And the need to have somebody tell you, yes, you are being controlled. That need becomes so overwhelming unless somebody can make you feel you're not crazy, you are being controlled, then it makes it impossible for people to move on. But what you're being controlled by is nothing outside of you. That isn't to say that there aren't institutions and people and things like that that have that ability. I'm not saying that. Obviously, that's possible. There are people like myself, knock on wood, so far, where I'm able to bypass all of that. I'm able to go through life without being controlled by outside entities. So far, we'll see. Knock on wood. But, I'm surrounded by people, as are you, who have all of the freedoms in the world to live and do anything and everything they want. But if you talk to them, they will tell you how they are being victimized and controlled. And what's one of the most interesting experiences I have is there are people whom I know who I can see, they're sad, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're unsatisfied. And I'll say to them things like that I do to you, well, what is it that you want to do? Go after what you want. You can have everything you want. And you would think that if somebody was giving you that information, you would think the response would be, really? I would like that. Tell me more. I would like to have power over my life. But they're not my students, so their response sometimes is anger. They get angry at me. They get angry at me and they start to treat me as an enemy. And they start characterizing me as somebody who is criticizing them and minimizing them and saying that they're stupid and that they're weak and it's like, that's not at all. I'm saying the exact opposite. In fact, I'm saying, if that's what you want to do, you should go do that. No, you don't understand the movie business this, or no, the job market this, or the economy that, or depending on what political version they are. No, the liberal agenda this, or no, the Republican this. And they always have a reason for why they have to stay. They want to prove to me that they have to stay victimized. And if I was really their friend, I would co-sign that for them. And it is their internal programming that is running everything. So bear in mind The unconscious mind rules your whole existence. And the program that you have received that you continue to create. So bear in mind, I am saying that you are programmed, but you are responsible for continuing to refresh and update that programming. You can change that programming whenever you want. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can do it at any time you choose. But your unconscious mind believes that your survival, which means being loved. Bear in mind, being loved is more important to you than eating food. So when I say your survival, that means on the deepest psychological level, people want to be loved. And people will sacrifice their health and their life if they think what they're doing is going to get them love and approval, which is necessary when you're an infant. But when you're an adult, that needs to transfer into, instead of being loved and approved of, that needs to be being connected and empowered by the spiritual realm. You know, God's love. I'm not a believer in God, but you get where I'm going with it. We need to make that transition. We need to transition from mommy and daddy's love and approval to my independence and my empowerment by the universe. So this is something that I've learned over the years for me, is that having that channel open between myself and the universe is absolutely necessary for my sanity. What I mean by sanity is the ability to determine what objective reality is. And what we have now is an increasing population that's becoming increasingly more narcissistic. By narcissistic, I mean living within its own fantasy world. And that fantasy world becomes more important than objective reality. So, as I said in my previous video, the link between being crazy and being spiritual, what brings it together is that both sides are looking for union. And you're either seeking to unify yourself to your own narcissistic bubble, and you're trying to take that unity that you create within your own narcissism and you try and project that on the world, or you seek to replace your infantile narcissistic bubble with a connection to an objective infinity that is beyond your human limitations. So everybody's seeking union in their own way. But you have to have the proper programming that guides your ability to know what's real and what's not. I do say, and it may be confusing for some of you, I do say that your projection is everything. Your entire physical existence is your own projection. But that does not negate the fact that there is an objective reality that you must unify yourself with. And that objective reality is one where you are happy, prosperous, and you simultaneously are self-empowered, and your self-empowered existence empowers other people. That is objective reality. And if you are in tune with objective reality, everybody's little tiny narcissistic bubbles that they're constantly trying to project onto you, you will be able to move through life without being pulled into somebody else's gravity well. So it's time to take back our souls. And one of the ways we do that is by connecting to the spiritual realm. You have ancestors that seek to guide you and to teach you and to empower you. You have guides, spiritual guides that seek to empower you. And there is a field of energy, life force energy, that is conscious, that is completely, totally devoted to your empowerment. It's the exact opposite of how organized religion wants you to feel, which is organized religion wants you to feel that you are a tiny, helpless, little, flawed creature, and you must bow before the Almighty and pray for His acceptance and forgiveness. And that's actually your narcissism. That's the narcissistic bubble. Worshipping of Jehovah is worshiping the narcissistic bubble. And dying to your narcissism in exchange for tapping into the objective infinity that exists beyond your human. You bear in mind, I'm very particular with my words. I don't say it exists beyond you. I say it exists beyond your human limitations. When you are able to die to your narcissism, which is again your desire to be loved, when your feeling is I must get somebody else's love to be validated, when you die to that and you accept the trauma that you are not going to be completed by somebody else's love or approval, when you die to that, and you surrender to the objective reality that exists beyond your human limitations, then you have this experience of unity with everything. Unity with the universe, unity with yourself, and unity with others, even those who are trapped in their narcissistic bubble. But if you are trapped within your narcissistic bubble, then you will be at war with everybody else's narcissism. This is politics. This is, racism. Any kind of clashing over nonsense. It's our narcissistic bubbles. Now, those people don't know that. This is why, in order to hold on to the idea of being victimized, people will go beyond the programming that, it's being done by more powerful people than me. You could just stop right there and say, yeah, there are people out there with all the money, they're doing it. There are, in some cases, if you live in a society like, for instance, let's say, 1800s USA where you're a slave, you could honestly say, yeah, the white man's doing it to me. And you would be right. But nowadays, people have to go beyond that. It's not just somebody else who has more money or more guns or more influence. It's not even, this political party. It's now gone to, there is this huge, we don't even know what it is, but a whole host of elites that are human or not. They might be beyond human. They might have superpowers. They might be aliens. They might be reptilians. And they live in secret bases under the ground, and they're everywhere, and they've infiltrated the media, and they've infiltrated the this, and they've not only that, but now they're putting things into your body with these vaccines that they can use to tap into all of your thoughts and all. They can control your body. It goes beyond just the idea that, yeah, I'm being controlled by somebody outside of me. It goes to the point where it's showing the emotional feeling. This is why I tell people, share with me your honest feelings. Because what's happening is people's feelings, the feelings of being targeted, of being controlled, of being manipulated, of being minimized, of being victimized, That feeling of not being seen, not being heard, means I'm not being loved, I'm dying. The scream, it's a tragic scream for love. Storming of the Capitol, every single one of those people, desperate to be seen and heard and loved. And they will adopt any belief system that justifies their internal emotional experience, which they can't directly associate with objective reality. They can't find it, so they have to create an absolutely unbelievable, mythical, science fiction, literally science fiction reality. They're implanting me with nano robots, and I'm being magnetized, and they're doing this, and they're eating children underneath the ground, and I can't believe anything anybody says except for the people that tell me I'm victimized. I believe them, but I won't believe anybody else. And what's really happening is, if you get underneath all of that, is this desperate cry, please, please see me. I need love. I exist. I just need somebody to acknowledge that I exist and that I have value and that I have worth. But we're shamed out of those feelings. You're not allowed to have those feelings, especially if you live in a narcissistic home as a kid. You'll get cracked over the head if you show any desire to share those feelings. So connecting to the objective reality of the universe through our ancestors, through the bodhisattvas, through the elves, through the ascended masters, through your spiritual guides, these beings allow us to feel that love, to be able to give that love to ourselves, to be able to get that feedback directly from the universe, so that then we can attune ourselves to objective reality. And we have to replace, as I said, our desire to be loved by mommy and daddy, which if you're an adult, you're not thinking mommy and daddy. You're thinking, I need, my political views to be experienced. I need you to know how they're doing it to me, or whatever it is. People can get honest about their feelings, and instead of projecting them onto things that do or do not exist, or conflating or expanding the real minor issues, and they can find that connection outside of themselves and die to their narcissistic bubble, which is about self-preservation. I'm trying to preserve myself at all costs. This is Odin dying to himself, not dying for others like Jesus did. He died to himself. He sacrificed his self to his self, little self to his big self. He sacrificed himself to himself, and the result of that was that he saw the mysteries, the runes that underline the universe. If you are able to tap into that, you will also tap into the realm underneath the universe. You'll tap into everything. And you will understand that continuing to surrender and die to your narcissistic bubble expands you, empowers you, and that love and that acceptance that you're trying so hard to find everywhere else, even though you don't comprehend that that's what you're really doing, that then fades into an acceptance of, I am everything. I am connected to everything. I see myself in everybody. And so, as I was saying in the previous video, there's a difference between the New Age, childish form of spirituality, which, when I say things like tap into the ascended masters, tap into the guides, there are many people who will start to tell me that they do that, as they do on the channel. They'll tell me how they do that, And then I say to them, great, now can you line up your visionary experiences with objective reality? That's how you know. For instance, are there secret underground caverns under the earth where elite super beings? There's no way that you can prove that. You cannot find objective verification for that. You can only listen to rumor. The Hool breath, which is the one thing that I recommend everybody do. It's the free gift that I give to you. You can go find it online anywhere. The Hool breath was given to me in meditative, I won't call it a vision because the sky didn't open up, but it was a meditative vision. And I've learned a long time ago that just because I'm having a spiritual experience and a vision, that doesn't mean that it's anything valid. It could be my own narcissistic projection. It could be my unconscious narcissism. So I accept it. I go, that's interesting. I'll write it down, the vision, whatever it was. In this case, it was a direct response to a question because I was having energy problems. I was having a lot of energy clashes in my body because I was beginning this process of syncretizing different belief systems, and I was completely on my own. So I was trying different things, and the energies were clashing within me, and it was causing me some problems. Sorry, I'm gonna ask people, if you're new to the channel, this is a question and answer. So this isn't just a free-for-all where we all just type in whatever the hell we feel like and talk to each other. It's a question and answer. So what I'd like from you is, if you have a question, write the word question in all caps and then write me a question. Or if you have an honest feeling, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm lonely, whatever it is, write that down. Everything else I don't want. All right, so this new person looks like Yuke. Welcome to the channel. I'm going to delete this particular comment just because it doesn't add to where we're going. You're welcome to ask a question or leave a feeling if you'd like. Even if it's you don't like the fact that I deleted your comment, you can do that. All right, so I'm going to cover this up because otherwise I get distracted by people's comments. Okay, so and the Hool breath was a result of me having this vision as a direct request and it was literally to who's ever out there. I need a one word, one breath meditation to balance my energy. And what was given to me was the Hool breath. And you can go watch that online to see exactly what that was. Now, just because I got that in vision, I didn't take it to mean anything. I said, that's interesting. I don't know. I can't verify it yet, so I didn't teach it. But I began practicing it. And I had immediate results. Now, that doesn't mean anything in and of itself either. That could be all psychosomatic. I could be making that up in my head. Most people do that. Most of the time, people who say that their kundalini has awoken, it's all psychosomatic. Their brain is firing on the nervous systems and they think that they're becoming awakened, and it's all, their narcissistic, psychopathic, internal craziness. And they think that they're something that they're not. So I'm as human as everybody else. I've got an unconscious mind. I've got my own agendas and desires, and I'm as prone to make the same mistakes as anybody else. So when I had this vision of the Hool breath and I started doing it and I felt it immediately, oh my God, that's the most amazing, powerful thing. It calmed down all of the energy clashes inside of me and did all kinds of things that went beyond anything I'd been taught by my teachers. But it wasn't enough. I have some verification. I have a physical experience, but I can't prove that. That doesn't mean it's going to have that effect on everybody else. And I began to do research, and I researched the Hool sound, and long story short, I came to the conclusion that it was coming from a legitimate spiritual pathway. I won't get into that. And that there's no way that I could have known this. There's no way I could have made it up. When I had verified it with objective, verified evidence, then I accepted my experience. The vast majority of people that are giving you these, I have to go listen to now we've got these nutbag born again Christians, who every 4 weeks are saying that Donald Trump, God has told them that Donald Trump is going to be reinstated as president. Now the next one is August. And watch, August will come and go and he won't be reinstated. And then they keep changing it and they say, well, so it's just purely their narcissism. They are Donald Trump fans and they're going to have magical thinking about what they want, and they're going to project what they want onto everything and everybody else and say God told them. And that's not far from your neighborhood psychic. I remember going to see a psychic when I was in my 20s, and I wanted to know, was I going to find love like everybody else? Everybody goes to psychics for 2 reasons. They want money or they want love. That's it. When am I going to find the love of my life? Or when is when is the man who I'm having an affair with, when is he going to leave his wife for me? Or, when am I going to win the lottery? Or, that's really all people go to psychics. And I'm no different. I went to a psychic and I wanted to know when was I going to find the love of my life? And this psychic began telling me details, gave me an exact date and gave me details, and started to describe in perfect detail the woman I was going to meet. And as it turns out, it was my fantasy at that time. I couldn't have written a more perfect fantasy. So she was picking up on something. And so I waited and I waited. That day came and went. Nothing. That person did not show up. Nothing turned out the way she guaranteed me it was going to happen. But, and there are psychics, they're good at reading you, so we could say that's a possibility. But I also believe that there are psychics who have the ability to tap into your unconscious. And so I think that's all she was doing. She was tapping into my unconscious with her psychic ability, which is really, we could talk about that. I don't know that it was psychic ability more than it was codependent, seriously codependent issues. And describing exactly what I was fantasizing. And so when people nowadays, if they have the New Agey kind of thing, they're having a spiritual experience. People who take ayahuasca, who do mushrooms, there are some people that do that and have real experiences, and there are some people that just get lost in their unconscious. They do have a spiritual experience. The question is, can you prove it objectively? Is there objective verification? And if you're wrapped up in your narcissistic bubble, just because you're doing something spiritual and you have a spiritual experience, it does not mean that you are tapping into objective reality. Because objective reality will always make your life better. You will become healthier, you will become happier, you will become more prosperous. If you are wrapped up in any kind of spiritual practice and your life is objectively getting worse, then there's a problem. Sometimes there's another scenario where your life is actually objectively getting better, but internally you're having more challenging emotional experiences. That's a very interesting experience that I go through myself. I'll do the work, my objective life will start to get better, but I will have internal resistance because it goes against the program, the narcissistic internal program. So this is going to be my new catchphrase for who knows how long, which is take back control of your soul. It is true, the media is telling you what to think and believe. Every time you watch, every time you watch a commercial, like a beer commercial, you know, it'll be a beer commercial and it'll be some guy on the beach, surrounded by beautiful women, and it's because he's drinking whatever alcoholic beverage it is, and the message is very clear: drink this intoxicating beverage, and you'll get laid by perfect, beautiful women. I mean, it's just you're getting programmed all the time. You get programmed by your parents. You're getting programmed by the media. And by the way, mainstream media is now no longer mainstream media. Mainstream media is not CNN or NBC. Mainstream media is Fox News, OAN, whatever the new alternative. But people tell themselves, I'm not into mainstream, I'm in alternative, even though more people watch Fox News and OAN and those other things than any other media stations anywhere. So that's mainstream media. You're being programmed by that. You're being programmed by everything and everybody around you, including me. I'm trying to program you. I'm trying to tell you, if you live your soul desire, if you listen to your soul desire and you live it, you will end up having a relationship with the universe where you get everything that you want. I'm programming you with that. You have to choose to accept that or reject that. But again, the bottom line is, I'm only interested in what works. So if somebody comes along with a program that I apply and my life gets better, I'm going to use it. Anyway, I'm starting to babble, so we'll leave it there. I'm happy to take any questions. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to listen to it. If you have any honest feelings, I'll be happy to listen to it. I don't see any questions here yet. So, in order to get to where you are taking your soul back and you are taking power over your narrative, I am offering to you the tools that I use, which is all of this stuff here. The Warrior 90-Day Challenge. It is the only practice that I know of publicly online that you can find which will tap you into the lightning power of your heart center. You have Qigong taps into this, yoga, pranayama taps into this. You have Kundalini, which is tapped into through mantra, through yoga, yogic meditation. And there's a third power, which is the feminine power of lightning, which surrounds and protects the heart. And it is this power of lightning that holds on to all of the wounds, which are when your narcissistic bubble, I'm not minimizing this, but this is what it is. When your narcissistic bubble goes through a trauma, you're hurt, you're rejected, you're abused, you're betrayed, these wounds to your heart are stored in this lightning power that surrounds the soul. When you start doing these practices, even if you try to mimic what you see me doing here, any of these practices that are seen here and here and here and here, those things will release those wounds. It will simultaneously release the most powerful spiritual energy that we have, which is this lightning. And it will start to release the wounds, which means you will have to feel them, you will have to take responsibility for them, and you will have to be willing to die to your narcissistic bubble, which, just like Dr. Manhattan, will destroy your sense of self but connect you to infinity so you can put yourself back together, and for all intents and purposes you will be a god in comparison to who you were. All right, so if you want that, go to thunderwizard.com, click around for 90-day challenge. You can unsubscribe anytime you want. You just go there, and when you subscribe, you'll get access to videos. Scroll to the bottom where it says, Warrior 90-Day Level 1, Video 1, and just start from there. You just press play, follow along. I narrate you as I go through the practices. Just go do them. Go do each section for 90 days at a time. And then you can come back here and talk to us about the emotional transformation that you're going through. As you die to yourself, as you take back control of your soul, as you take back control of your narrative, so that you really can intend your perfect reality. This is what I offer you. Same thing with the Manifestation Mastery course. If you do this, you get access to this automatically. And we're starting to bring out some videos, which I'm calling the Omnipotence series. All right? And then, of course, we have the Mao Shan 5-element, which is the elite practice, only for those who are willing to go through the transformation to such a degree where, let's see, where am I going here? Sorry, I can only do one thing at a time because I'm a typical man. I can't talk and scroll at the same time. That's because men have a smaller corpus callosum, which is the piece of tissue that connects the both sides of the brain. Women can talk on the phone and hold a baby and stir the eggs because they have a bigger corpus callosum. They can do multiple things at once. Men can't do that so well. I'm not finding the Mao Shan link. I'll have to come back to it later. So there's one more pass through and then I'll get to Jameson's feeling there. There it is. You can also go there if you want the elite practice, which is directly connected to that. Jameson-san, honest feeling, scares, saddens me your description, narc bubble society. Been my experience and see its pull influence on my and next generation. Feel resisting that means hermitage or perpetual disingenuous relationships, mostly thinking of friendships and the difficult task ahead, accepting reality of our times. Well, it is true. Every single generation says the same thing, and every generation is right. Every generation says, this is the most important generation. What's happening now with the kids these days? I mean, it's all true. You know, what my parents, said about hippies, it was true. There were things in it that, which still blow my mind. I was absolutely convinced, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I was absolutely convinced that racism was going to be a thing of the past. And now it's worse than ever. So but there was a lot of the same kind of things that were going on. I mean, hippies had the same problem that millennials have. They were entitled. They were, they operated from conspiracy theories. Anybody over the age of 30, don't trust anybody over the age of 30. But there were real things like, the Vietnam War. And, the sad part is that what the hippies were doing and what came out of the hippie movement was actual journalism. You had these warrior journalists like those who, I just watched recently something about, the guy who a whistleblower who revealed, I was going to say Trump, who revealed Nixon's desire to take over the FBI and destroy his crimes and his lies and how he used his power as president to try and basically turn himself into a fascist dictator. And it was the hippie movement that got people into becoming whistleblowers, and that's where you ended up with real journalism. Real journalism. Again, people don't know this today. I'm going to say it again. There used to be a law. When I was a kid, there was a law on the books that said whenever somebody came onto television with a political viewpoint and a political opinion, you by law had to have somebody of the opposing party to give their viewpoint. And you knew the difference between political opinion and journalism. And journalism was somebody telling you the news and they had to back it up with facts or they went to prison. You knew the difference then. There was a thing called the op-ed in newspapers, opinion editorial, and it was at the back of the newspaper, and it was usually a small thing, and you would usually look for your political party so that you could, this was the equivalent of Fox News or the equivalent of Rachel Maddow. There was a tiny little thing in the back of the newspaper. The rest of the newspaper was filled with facts. If they weren't facts, you couldn't print them. That law was struck down. It is now legal. This is why Fox News exists. This is why Sean Hannity exists. He exists because he can, with impunity, open his, any one of those guys at Fox, most of them, as soon as their show comes on, they immediately bombard you with a program, with an opinion. Once again, the communist liberal agenda is trying to take away your freedom, and they don't back any of it up with facts. If they do have facts, they're unverifiable most of the time. They're half-truths. You don't know the difference because it has been legislated that you no longer are being told the difference between truth, journalism, and opinion. You no longer can tell when somebody is funding huge news corporations to tell you what to think and what to believe. And so people are right when they say, I don't know who to believe. Because you don't know. You haven't been educated to know the difference between fact and opinion. Which is why you have 60 court cases saying that Trump lost and 40 to 50% of the population saying, I don't believe that. Because you don't know the difference between fact and opinion. You don't know when you're being programmed. You can't differentiate between real conspiracies like the conspiracy of the oil companies who want to tell you that the human-caused global warming is a hoax, and scientists who are saying, no, I'm looking at the facts here, and the facts are that there's a direct correlation between humans' use of fossil fuels and the change in climate. It's a fact. Here's the math. You can't tell the difference, many of you. And your narcissistic bubble, when somebody comes to you and consciously, Machiavellianly stimulates your fear by starting off saying things like the liberal elite are out to, all that has to happen. If you hear that enough times, you, like Pavlov's dog, you respond with fear. And nobody wants to have their taxes raised or their freedoms taken or anything. So all somebody has to do is come along and say half-truths about something. Now, let me be clear. I don't have an opinion on the vaccine yet. When I have an opinion, I will let you know. Until then, I haven't made up my mind. But I'm smart enough to know when somebody's shoving shit in my mouth and telling me it's chocolate. And when somebody comes on and says, this new vaccine is a new thing that's never been done, therefore you're being programmed. Now, there's two things going on there. There's two assumptions being thrown at me. One doesn't necessitate the other. But if you've been programmed by, like Pavlov's dog, to respond to anything that makes you feel that you're being victimized, then all somebody has to do is give you one half-truth and then follow it up with some fear-based nonsense. And then you're now controlled. But you don't know that, most of you. So the same problem, what you're saying, Jameson, is true. When I was a kid, there were a lot of things that were true that my parents didn't like about hippies. There was some truth to a lot of it. They're entitled. They're destroying themselves with drugs and alcohol. The free love thing where everybody sleeps with everybody without wearing protection, and then all of a sudden you've got, end up now, AIDS and all kinds of, killer herpes and whatever. I mean, that's where that all came from. So there was some truth to that. So Jameson, you and I are correct when we say nowadays the mindset of the conspiracy theorists and the uneducated, fear-based mongers, and which maybe we're saying the same thing, and it saddens you to see that. It's true, but it's also true that even though the internet destroys weak-minded, uneducated people's ability to know the truth, and it fosters, fake news. Even though that's true, it's also one of the most powerful tools to find out truth, to disseminate information that normally would not be available. So I'm with you, but every single generation says the same thing about the previous generation. So I'm now the older generation, as much as I don't want to admit it. And so now I'm that old fart that bald-headed old fart who blah, blah, blah. Right? All right, let's keep going. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I feel so sad and angry because I was supposed to have a date today, but the girl rejected me when she saw me because I'm short. I totally feel for you. I'm so sorry that happened. There's nothing more painful than that. Now, Vincent.thunderwizard.com, because you are my student. We haven't had our first session. Now you're an apprentice. Because you're my student, you also know that isn't going to determine your reality. That you can pick yourself up, you can cry, and you should be angry, you should be hurt, you should be feel betrayed and judged harshly and all of that. Those are very real emotions. Simultaneously, everybody has the right to reject anybody else for any reason they want. And it's always going to be something. You're not tall enough, you're not rich enough, you're the wrong skin color, you don't have the right body type. I don't like the same music you do. I don't like your politics. There's always going to be some superficial reason to accept or reject anybody. So this is where you get to bump into the disappointment of the trauma of not getting what you hoped and grow beyond it. You don't deny the feelings, you don't stuff them down, you feel them, and you use it to become more empowered within yourself, that you are more than your height. You are more than anything else. It's also good to, when you go onto dating sites, to make sure that everybody knows everything about you, so it's good to have that, let them know your correct age, your correct height, all that kind of stuff, because that's a lot easier, because if that's going to be what they're going to reject you on. I've had it too. I'm not tall, I'm average. I'm probably more on the short side even though I don't look it. But I'm 5'8.5", soaking wet in my bare feet, 5'9" with tennis shoes on, People think I'm 5'10" or even, but that's just the way that I carry myself. But and this is one of the downsides of online dating, because people make assumptions about you without having met you. So there have been women who have rejected me online simply because I wasn't 5'11" or taller. And they were like 5'3", and they're like, or they'll say things like, I can't date you if you're not taller than me when I'm wearing my high heels. And I feel pretty confident, had I met them in person, that wouldn't have been an issue for them. And but everybody's got something. I have them. I have specific things that I can't tolerate physically in a woman. I'm superficial like that. But it hurts when I get it. I'm not tall enough. or my age. I don't think I look my age. I mean, Jesus Christ, I see people my age and they look like my grandparents. So in my mind, all 30-year-old women should be totally hot for me. But online, I find out I'm 57 years old, they don't want anything to do with me. When I know if I saw them in public, they wouldn't even be thinking that. I don't know if they'd be attracted to me or not, but then I don't look like I'm 25. I mean, they're going to see that I'm a middle-aged guy, but you get my point. So this is a new thing. I say keep going. Here's the thing about online dating, and you've learned it. I went through the same thing you did. It's a numbers game. You hear this in sales. You Vincent.thunderwizard.com, you're an astrologer. It's a numbers game. If you want to get astrology clients, you have to get a ton of traffic to your website. Your website, Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Everybody should go check it out. You have to get traffic to it. And if you get enough people on your website, you will get clients. Online dating sites, it's a numbers game. Here's the other thing you should know. I did this for years as well. I mean, before I met my soulmate, sadly who passed away, I went on hundreds of coffee dates. Hundreds. From dating websites. Hundreds of coffee dates. And so I just got used to, every time that I had a coffee date, I got used to just expecting that it wasn't going to work out. That either I wasn't going to be attracted to them or they weren't going to be interested in me. I just got used to it. I just expected that I'm going on another coffee date. But I did it as a message to the universe. I was telling the universe, I'm committed to finding a romantic partner and I'm not going to give up. So Vincent, I recommend you do the same thing. Don't give up. This is just one. There will be many more if you really put yourself out there. And the majority of them are going to be washouts. You'll either won't be interested in them or they won't be interested in you. Just accept it. It has no it doesn't have any significance to your worth. There is somebody out there. If this is what you want, if your sole desire is to find love, you will find it. But you have to let the universe know that you're not going to give up. You're not going to use this as an excuse to co-sign the narrative within you, whatever your narrative is, that tells you that you're not acceptable for whatever reason. You have to go against that narrative. And here's the other thing I've found, is that if somebody really does like themselves, they really do enjoy themselves, and they have confidence, and not confidence doesn't mean that you're full of yourself, it means that you're comfortable with yourself. They become really attractive to people. There have been women that I've dated that I was really into that weren't my type, but they were just so fun to be around, and they were so into them, in a positive way, into themselves, and they were happy, and they made you feel happy. So, that's a strength that you can improve on. You can become more self-accepting, you can become more self-loving, you can become more self-confident, and none of those things are dependent on anything outside of you. And you may become, able to, you may end up being with somebody because of that. So, don't give up. See what else? Jameson Son question. Is it self-love to be more discerning with who I invest time and energy into friendship, or is it cutting out non-spiritual friends, not going after their orlog, just projected self-judgment? I think, look, as I was saying, any reason is a valid reason. There's no such thing as a wrong reason. I mean, somebody else can judge it. But if you don't want to hang out with people because of their politics or their mindset, there's nothing wrong with rejecting people because you're not getting something from the connection. I mean, I do it sometimes with clients. There are clients that I won't take. because it's just, I personally just don't want to deal with, whatever limitations they want to keep throwing at me. On a personal note, I'm very picky about the people in my life. I don't have a whole lot of people in my life. And it's because of that same reason. It's just that I just don't want to go through the effort of trying to listen to you talk about how, the liberal elite, blah, blah, fucking blah. I don't want to listen to it. Or the other side. There's other people I've rejected as well, who the first thing out of their mouth is they want to talk about how the vaccine is a plot to, I just don't want to listen to it. I don't have the energy to, I can't listen to it and accept it and tolerate it, and I don't have the energy, and you haven't asked for my opinion, so I just don't hang out with them. So Jameson, just be yourself. Just be yourself, and you have the right to be with who you want to be with and not hang out with who you don't want to hang out with. You don't have to be loving. So you ask the question of, is it self-love? You know what I mean? You don't have to be loving to others. Loving to others doesn't mean accepting people in your life that bring you down. As I was saying earlier, everybody has their narcissistic bubble. And if we are connected to the objective universe, then we die to our narcissistic bubble so that we can expand ourselves to connect to objective reality and infinity and everybody else. But what is going on most of the time is that people's narcissistic bubbles are banging into each other. And then you find the narcissistic bubbles that come together. Here's an interesting one. Still, I find interesting. The attack on the Capitol. You had all different kinds of people that normally would have nothing to do with each other. You had QAnon shaman, who I imagine smokes weed and, does his thing about whatever. And he wears his shaman horns and he screams until his voice is, destroyed, and beats on a drum, and he says that's shamanism. And then, QAnon beliefs and shamanism are the same thing. You have that guy, and then you have militia members who are racist, born-again, Christian, fascist nutbags. And normally these people would be at odds with each other. Those militia people would be chasing down with their guns. They'd be chasing down the QAnon shamans. But because they both buy into the narrative that somebody's destroying their life and taking their freedom away, whether that's they've verified that or not is a whole other issue. So their victim mentality, they've bonded with their wounds, and that now their narcissistic bubbles can come together and create a larger narcissistic bubble that they share. But the moment that connection, if that were to fall apart, then they'd be at each other's throat because their narcissistic bubbles collide. So it's interesting. This happens in relationships all the time. Why is it that relationships in the beginning, people will say, "This is my soulmate. They finish my other thoughts. They're my other half," and then a year, 5 years later, they're slashing each other's tires and taking each other to court, and they hate each other more than they hate anything else. It's because their narcissistic bubbles are no longer. That thing that brought them together wasn't enough. You have to learn how to accept people exactly for who they are, and if that empowers your life or not. So you can do whatever you want. All right, let's see. And again, Jameson's on. I understand the question, but once again, you're just beating yourself up for having a feeling. You have the right to like or not like anybody, and it's not your job to be anybody's friend. It's your job to empower yourself and find other people who empower you and whom you can empower. Gununga Greg, question. What is your opinion on looking at the 8th house from the Aruda Lagna to look at our unconscious doubts about transforming it? My thoughts about that is that sounds awesome. Ganunga Greg is also one of my astrologer certificates, whatever, certificate, whatever the hell you call it. I certified him. He's a certified astrologer. But the thing that I like, and also Vincent also did the same thing. You know, my astrology course isn't designed to be the be all and end all. It's a quick way to get you to the things that I focus on, which are I found to be very important and really helpful. But my hope is that everybody who studies with me then goes on to continue and learn things that I don't know. I've never heard of that. I think that's phenomenal. I'm gonna, as soon as we get off, I'm gonna go look at mine. And I'm gonna start thinking about how to apply that in readings. So the 8th house from the Aruda Lagna, to look at our unconscious doubts about transforming it. That sounds great. You know, there's also the 10th, the 10th from the 10th. Yeah. The 10th from the 10th, I think, tells you your reputation of your business, which mine, the reputation of my business is Saturn in Capricorn in the 6th house, which means fighting and overcoming enemies. And what is it that I'm known for, and what is it that I do? I fight with my detractors. Anybody who comes on and criticizes me, I eviscerate them. And I don't hold myself back from doing that, because my chart says that's your reputation anyway. People will always see you. That, you know, what you do for a living, you will fight with people who oppose you or criticize you. So I just go ahead and do it. So now Ganunga Greg is sharing with us another one, which is looking at the 8th house from the Aruda Lagna to look at your unconscious doubts about transforming it. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I'm going to take a look at that. Jameson's on Honest Feeling. Thank you. Your response feels like my question. Is it okay not to be codependent in all relationships? Yes, I agree. That's what your question is. Is it okay for me not to be codependent? Do I have to be a codependent friend to everybody that comes my way? Now, being that you are codependent, people are going to seek you out. One of the problems I have with dating is that women seek me out to be their healer, and I'm just so done with that. I just don't want to do that. I don't have the strength. They come to me and they say, oh, I need that. You're a shaman. I really need that in my life. I really need somebody to help. I say, no. You can pay me for my services, but I'm not going to be your boyfriend and give it to you for free and then just be drained of all my energy. I'm not doing that. You want to hook up with me? You want to give back to me? That would be fun for a change. I'd like that. You want to be there for me and be helpful to me? Yeah, sign me up for that one. Where do I find that? No, you can pay me if you want my help. So you're right. It's not your job. It's not your job to let everybody come in and be your friend. And the fact that you are a codependent and you're recovering from it means that you're going to attract a lot of people who are going to want to take from you because they think that's what you're offering to the world. And that's okay. You'll work through that. So you're absolutely right. It's not your job to be everybody's friend just because they want it. You don't have to be friend with anybody you don't want. Yeah, your 4th step. That'll be a life changer. Focus on your resentments and your desires that got you resentful. That'll be a life changer for you. All right, no more questions. Vincent says thank you. You're welcome, sir. Fim Sample CG, Honest Feeling. I'm having a lot of resistance to do the things that I have to do, and I even feel a lot of resistance to get up and drink. You mean get up and drink water? I started to feel like I'm not living anymore, and I'm having a lot of feelings that are mixed with anger, sadness, envy, but I don't understand them. I stopped doing 90-day challenge and it makes me feel guilty, so I'm planning to get back to slowly, so I won't have to give up after 2 days. Well, those are honest feelings. And these are the kinds of things that happen when you do the Warrior 90-day stuff. And I understand. I mean, I've done the same thing you're doing. I've taken time off from all kinds of things, including the lightning qigong. But I think you're right. You know, the best thing to do is to get back into it and do it, and you know, play whatever game you have with yourself. What I always recommend people do is that they commit to what they know they can do. So in other words, if you know that you can do 10 minutes a day, you want to do a half an hour or an hour, let's say, but you know that you can commit to 10 minutes a day, then do 10 minutes, no matter what. 10 minutes is good. You know, Kundalini Yoga would say 11 minutes, so you tap into infinity. Let's just say 11 minutes. 11 minutes is good because no matter how tired you are, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you say, I have to go to sleep, I can't do an hour's worth. Well, you can do 11 minutes of Qigong. 11 minutes isn't going to change the fact it's already 3 o'clock in the morning. So what's the difference going to bed at 3 o'clock or 3:10? It's not going to change anything. So you might as well do it. And that way you can at least have the narrative of, I follow through. Because that's what your narrative is, I'm hearing it, is that I'm lazy. I can't do what I'm supposed to do. I'm so lazy I can't even get up and drink water, assuming that's what you're talking about. So that's your narrative. Your narrative is that you know, where you got that, I don't know. So the thing to do is to do the opposite. So again, having resistance is just a feeling. And it feels like it's killing you. And I mean this with everything inside of me. This is the key. You know, on my other channel, I'm talking to people who have severe mental disorders. And I'm not an expert in that. But one of the things I'm telling people, you know, that you know, they want to act out in really, really destructive ways because the feelings and the impulses are so overwhelming that they feel that they can't stop themselves. And so their narrative is, I can't help myself. I act out explosively and destructively and I can't help myself. But there is, they could, in any given moment, they could choose, no matter how difficult, to go 1 second at a time and not act out. Alcoholics and drug addicts do the same thing. They go 1 day at a time. They go 1 hour at a time. I'm going to go an hour and I'm not going to go get a fix. I'm going to go an hour and I'm not going to go buy a six-pack or, you know, or a whatever, jug of wine. So this feeling that you have that you can't do what you need to do is a narrative. And it's a feeling. You don't have to respond to your unconscious resistance. It's just a feeling. And you're not required to do every single feeling and every single impulse that goes through you. You have the ability to do what you choose. It is possible, though, that we do too much. So can you do 11 minutes a day? Then do that. You can't do you want to do a half an hour, you do a half an hour one day, you do a half an hour 5 days in a row, and then your resistance kicks in. Okay, today I'm just going to do 11 minutes. Just telling yourself that is enough. That will you'll make a deal with your resistance. Your resistance says, I don't ever want to do this again. You go, that's all right. I'll only do my 11 minutes and then I'll go straight to bed. Or I'll do my 11 minutes and then I'll play video games. Whatever it is. You have the power to change the narrative. You have the power to do the opposite of what you're feeling. So that's all I'm hearing you tell me, is that you have this feeling, which is resistance, and that you say, it's good the way you didn't say, I can't do the things I have to do. You said, I'm having a lot of resistance. That's a good way of putting it, because that's all it is. It might be resistance that feels like it's killing you, but it's just a feeling. If everybody could learn that, the world would be a much better place. Learning how to take action regardless of your thoughts, feelings, and impulses when it serves you. FIM sample CG, it's also normal not to understand all of your feelings and to be overwhelmed by them as a result of doing this work. This is why I tell everybody they need to have a mentor. You can't do this alone. You can't. I can't. I've got a teacher, I've got a therapist, I've got a 12-step group that I go to, I've got a group therapy. I am not alone. I can't do it myself. Neither can any of you. This is what the apprenticeship option is for. But I'm not the only game in town. Find somebody. You're not going to be able to do it. I mean, you might be able to do it alone. It's not impossible. But for most of us, it's very difficult. And here's the thing. Everybody that I work with, as well as myself and pretty much everybody I know, if you're doing this kind of work, which this is serious work, you're unpacking and unloading a lot of unconscious baggage, false programming. There's a lot in there. At some point, if you do this, at some point, there's gonna be a point where your resistance is gonna be so intense, it's gonna be nearly impossible not to act out the resistance. And this is what teachers are for. You call up your sponsor, you call up your teacher, you send an email. People do that to me. They send me emails all the time if they're my apprentice, and I'll write them back some positive something. Sometimes I don't respond, but just them writing an email is their way of connecting to something, that represents encouragement to keep going. So you need some help. You're going to need somebody. Let's see what else. Thunder question: is Celestial Qigong the same as Lightning Qigong? They are the same tradition. Lightning Qigong is the extension of Celestial Qigong. Ganunga Greg: Mahadeva, I'm still reading the Castaneda books on this YouTube channel. So the Ganunga Greg, is that your channel? Ganunga Greg? So people should go and check it out. Ganunga Greg also has an ASMR channel, which I don't know what that one is, but you should go check that out as well. But Castaneda books, I've always said that Castaneda was channeling. He definitely channeled some truths. He was a fraud, and he was a destructive narcissist cult leader. But the majority of the books that and the things that he writes in his books are brilliant. And even if they're not completely accurate, especially the thing about being a warrior, and living, just living the perfected warrior lifestyle. It's absolutely brilliant. It's everything I just said. How not to listen to indulge in your impulses. The difference is that there's a little bit of feeling with Castaneda that you're supposed to deny the impulses, which is not accurate. You're supposed to have them and feel them, but you don't have to act them out, to take contrary action. He has a really great way of explaining, even though he himself didn't do it, didn't live it. He has a great way of explaining it. What else? Sinleet. I responded to your question that you left. It was weird. I mean, I keep having this experience with you. It's you do and say weird, strange things that are destructive. And I have this look on my face because I don't know that you're aware of it. That message you left me was really passive aggressive, but I don't think you realized it. There's something about you I don't get. I'm assuming, based on if I'm remembering you correctly, that you are part of doing the 90-day challenge, right? But you asked me a weird question. You asked, why don't I prove live my abilities or something? You know, and I ask you about that, and then you don't respond, and then you come back on like you've said nothing. See what I mean? There's some weird stuff going on. You say really weird, provocative things, and I ask you about them, and then you just act like it never happened. And it makes me wonder if everything's connected up here. So I'm interested to know what you meant when you said, why is it that is there anything I can do to prove my powers other than what you call doing psychological readings on people? I want to know what you meant. What is it that you're expecting me to do? You say, and it's not even a question. You've been on this channel long enough. You know how this works. You write a question or you leave an honest feeling, and here you are doing, you're not doing either of those things. Again, it's like, is everything connecting upstairs? I got a look on my face because I honestly don't know. I'm not trying to judge you. I just, something's not right here. You say, I found an old letter to my family today cleaning my very messy house as part of my process. The letter was from Michael Tunder. And? I found some lint in my belly button yesterday. Any other superficial, just odd things that you want to share? I get it. It sounds like, Michael Thunder Wizard, Michael Denny. I think I get what you're saying. Gununga Greg's music channel is ASMR Intent. So go check out his YouTube channel. Okay, I don't know what Scott Boneta is trying to say there, so I won't respond. All right, so I don't see any other thoughts or questions. And again, Sinlead, I'm serious. I want to hear back from you. I honestly want to know what it is that you expect me to do live to prove myself. Yeah, I'm really on the fence about you. I can't decide whether or not I want to block you or whether I want to help you. I can't figure out what's going on with you. So I'm waiting to hear the answer to that question at some point. All right, that's it for me, guys. I hope you're doing well. And we'll continue with this process of taking back your soul. And I worked legs yesterday and I went surfing the day before, so I think I'm going to spend the rest of the day napping so that I'll be ready to go tomorrow with clients and then again surfing on Tuesday. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you next time.